So, what did you think about the movie?
Woo!
A story of a rich, arrogant, pompous, well-to-do man who faces a crisis and then goes on a journey of self-discovery and becomes something more? Yeah, I've heard this before. Bruce Wayne, Tony Stark, Mantis, Blank Man? No, it's Doctor Strange. I know initially Marvel Studios didn't want to make any more origin films because the movie-going public or the internet, aka the vocal minority, say that they don't like them. Well, sometimes you need to introduce a character or characters, and just starting with them already established isn't the best way, especially when one has as great an origin as Dr. Stephen Strange. So let's take a look at the different aspects of the film now. Pros. The pacing. I was never bored and the film seemed to flow pretty well. I heard some reviewers say that the first 30 minutes are slow. I disagree. Within the first 10 minutes, Stephen has saved 2 people's lives, got into a car accident, and is trying to find new ways to restore his hands. Within the first 30 minutes, he meets the Ancient One, goes on a mind-bending, multiverse-shattering trip along with a butterfly, and begins his training in earnest. I think the main reason the film pacing worked was the filmmakers focused on the main cast of characters, like in Kubo and the Two Strings. What I mean is, in Kubo, the main cast is pretty small, maybe 4 to 5 characters, so there aren't a ton of supporting characters to draw the attention away from them. Plus, since it's a simple story, there aren't a ton of extraneous amount of characters to bog the story down. The fighting. For the most part, the fighting is good. The fighting is at its best when magic is being used though. There are several types of fighting too. Typical hand-to-hand, then magic-based, then a reality warping fight, a fight happening forward and backwards through time, and an astral fight with physical effects happening to the real world. Then there's the climax where Doctor Strange is outmatched and has to use his head to bargain for the safety of the world. That's definitely a different way to climax an action film. The acting. The acting was solid all around. Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, perfect casting. Cumberbatch embodied the character and was able to make me believe him as a character and his emotional and metaphysical journey. It is interesting, before the movie came out, certain people felt that this was too on-the-nose casting and that Marvel should have gone and done something different like they did with Robert Downey Jr. for Tony Stark. First off, just because it's on the nose doesn't mean it's bad. If you were to ask anyone before they cast the film, they would have picked Benedict Cumberbatch because he has the full range to pull off the character. Chiwetel Ejiofor as Baron Karl Mordo. He displays the pride and the rigidity and singular focus the character has in the comics. What is interesting though is, 1, he's the one that convinced the Ancient One to take Strange on, and 2, in the comics, he wants the title of Sorcerer Supreme for selfish reasons. In the film, he doesn't seem interested in that. He just wants magic not to be abused or bastardized. By the end of the film, you realize just how strong his beliefs are and how far he will go to protect the sanctity of magic. Some of his rationalization is flawed. After all, how were they supposed to defeat the villain any other way? But then again, he's a flawed character. Mads Mikkelsen. He did his character well. The only problem was we didn't get to really know more about him. So congrats, Mr. Feige. Your plan of having a villain not overshadow the hero, aka underwriting the villains, has worked again. Ugh. The Ancient One, Tilda Swinton. While I still don't like the whitewashing that was done, she did play the role well. The Ancient One was wise and aloof, suspicious and kind. There was an odd charisma coming from her, and you could understand why people would stay with her. Rachel McAdams. She played a minor role but did it well. Her part was to provide support for Strange. Also, FYI, she's one of the night nurses from the Night Nurse comic book that was in the 1970s. It followed 3 nurses around and they still pop up today. Claire Temple is one as well, even though in the comic she's not called Claire Temple. But it is interesting, at some point in the film she becomes a doctor, but at the beginning she was a nurse. Dormammu by Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch has a cameo role in the film that he also stars in. I didn't think they would introduce him right in the first film, but they did. Other than him being big and angry, we didn't really see much about him. There's more to him than that, so hopefully he'll pop up for a longer period of time in future movies. Also, he's as big a threat to our universe than Thanos. Actually, he might be a bigger threat. So maybe it wasn't as smart to show him off with the first film instead of, like, say, the third film. Fingers crossed that in the next film they introduce his sister Umar and the Mindless Ones. The 3D. This movie demands you to see it in 3D. Now, whether it's the first thing that's in 3D that immerses you into the film or the at least half dozen 3D set pieces in the film, you need to see this in 3D. Also, to the people that say that the clips of this look like an Inception ripoff, well, Inception can kiss it. Inception was locked in the confines of a dreamscape and didn't fully exploit its dream concept to its fullest. Paprika did it better. That's not a mistake that Doctor Strange makes. The end fight happens across time and space. Also, the climax has got to be one of the trippiest and most violent negotiations in the history of the world. The world building. It's actually done pretty subtle. One way is by introducing magical weapons, introducing the concept of the multiverse. Okay, well, that's less subtle. And the concept of time as well. This could be maybe the key to defeating Thanos in Infinity War. Well, anyway, another is the Sanctum Sanctorums. In the film, there are 3. Hong Kong, filmed in LA, London, and New York. So at some point, the masters of these sanctums have to pop up. Who will they be? And now the cons. Pacing. I felt at times some scenes were cut to make the under 2-hour runtime. The fighting. There are times when the fight scenes, usually the hand-to-hand ones, are cut really quickly. I assume they would have been more exciting than they were, but it's tough to see the choreography in some scenes. There are only 3 reasons why this happens in films. 1. The director doesn't know how to shoot action. That's quite possible for this film. 2. The director or studio think it's cool and is just jumping onto a trend. 3. At least one of the actors or actresses don't know how to perform action. And odds are that's probably what happened here. The acting. Well, really the writing. As stated in the pros, the acting is good. The only issue would be that the script didn't allow them to do more, or to expand on their characters more. Here's an example. Instead of showing how Mad Mikkelsen's or Chiwetel Ejiofor's characters got where they are, and now it's just done with exposition. Show, don't tell. The film is under 2 hours, and while I'm not saying I'm looking for an extra 30 minutes of backstory on the characters, another 5 to 10 minutes in the flashback would help. The 3D. For the most part, it worked, though there were a few scenes where it didn't seem as organic and seemed a bit flat, but there's really nothing major. Nitpicking or random thoughts. Where's the incantations? By the hoary hosts of Hoggoth, by the Eye of Agamotto, by the Crimson Bands of Serac. Yeah, you don't hear any of that in the film. This isn't a nitpick, this is important. This is part of the lore of Doctor Strange. Was this excised because the filmmakers thought it would be too silly, or that the moviegoers wouldn't get it? 1. This is a movie based off of a comic book. Of course it's gonna have silly or weird aspects to it. That's what makes them great. 2. Here's the thing about the Good Doctor's incantations in the comics. The magic isn't so much of coming out of him, he's asking the various magical entities to lend him their power temporarily. They can lend it to him or take it away, which has happened before in the comics. This is why he doesn't use magic for mundane things like take out the trash or mop the floor. But Mickey Mouse did. What the hell is magic in the MCU? Is this really magic? At times in this film it feels that Marvel Studios hasn't fully committed to using magic. Only a couple of spells were actually used and then used repeatedly. If in this universe you can have superpowers and super science, I don't see why the concept of magic is that hard. Just create rules and then stick with it. I guess I have to make a video about that then. Who is the new Sorcerer Supreme? After what happened in the 3rd act, it's a valid question. It's never answered. Now, I assume we could assume that the Good Doctor has taken the position over. We don't know. This is kind of important. This isn't something that should be left on the cutting room floor. And finally, whitewashing. Okay, after thinking about it and seeing that the actors in the roles that they were race-bended, I do feel that they did a very good job. But I still have a problem with it. Just not the same problem I had initially. I believe the reason why the Ancient One was turned into a Caucasian female was because of China. Remember, Iron Man 3 was supposed to have a real Asian Mandarin actor, but because Marvel Studios wanted to have this film shown in China, and China doesn't like to have films imported into their country where the depiction of an Asian character is negative, or if there is a positive portrayal of a character from Tibet, the Chinese government has some issues, let's just say, with Tibet. Another reason with Iron Man 3 is it's rumored that part of that film was backed by Chinese money, so, well, yeah. So with Doctor Strange, just as with Iron Man 3, we have a character be a white person, but a highly acclaimed white person actor, plus then race bend another character and have that role played by another award-winning actor. That way, no one can complain, and even if they do, the mass movie going public won't care. As a side note, Mr. Ejiofor could have played Jericho Drum, aka Brother Voodoo. I mean, he was Sorcerer Supreme for a while a few years back. I recommend this film. This was a really good directed and acted film. While I do wish that some things were expanded on or included in the film, this is a good starting point for The Good Doctor and a new aspect of not just the Marvel Universe, but films in general. It's a different way of showing a movie with magic, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you liked this video or found it interesting, then please comment below, subscribe, like, and share. Also, check me out on Patreon, and if you're so willing, donate $1 or so there. Thank you for watching, and remember to read more comic books from around the world and animation that's not just CGI, but also 2D and stop motion. So until next time, venture on.